So like a month ago, this woman was going kind of viral for this sort of going undercover, dating far right men. And I don't know how I missed it, but I did miss it. And I want to watch it with you guys. This is the interview that everyone was reacting to. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen someone react to it yet. I'm going to watch it with you today. And then I want to sort of have a continuous conversation about this idea around dating men, dating far right men, and sort of the ethics around her decision to go undercover. Because Cenk from the Young Turks was questioning the ethics of manipulating these men into dates with her when she knew she wasn't interested in them. I have a whole thing about this. Okay, let's watch her tell her story and then we'll get into it.
CNN's Donie O'Sullivan got in the cage with former UFC star turned podcaster Jake Shields to explore the manosphere and why exactly it's so popular.
They speak liberal, they have liberal friends, and then they go online and they are a white supremacist.
This is Vera Papasova. She spent the last year dating far-right men in New York City for a story for Cosmopolitan magazine.
They're the most insecure men I've ever sat down with. It was really difficult to have some of these dates because they were so insecure, because they don't really know who they are and they don't know how to figure that out.
She said the men she dated got all their news and information from the so-called manosphere.
They did not listen to anything else. They're only listening to independent media and they're only listening to men talking to men.
The manosphere is made up of macho podcasters and influencers.
There's no such thing as an independent female.
Most women have zero concept of like money.
Females don't have independent thought.
It's a space where UFC fighters are among those who reign supreme.
They love the UFC guys. They love the MMA guys because those guys do what they can. They're modern gladiators. They're badass.
Badass like Jake Shields, a former UFC star turned podcaster.
Sorry. Now I'm starting to feel nervous. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course.
Who I met at an MMA gym in Las Vegas.
Like all great MMA pros. I've never hit anyone in my life.
I'm not punching back. Hit me. No, sit right here. KO.
This is CNN. Do you miss being full-time pro, like in terms
you know, of course I miss it. To go from professional athlete, which is the highest of highs, to retirement.
I guess the
podcast has helped. You could fall into depression if you just go from the most amazing career where you're famous and spotlights to all of a sudden you're a nobody.
Sure.
Like other podcasters in the manosphere, Jake regularly hosts controversial guests.
And I named the podcast Fighting Back. I feel like we have to fight back what we're told we're allowed to do. I just don't like to be told you're not allowed to talk to this person. Like, why can't I talk to him? I'm not saying I agree with his ideology, but I should hear what he has to say.
He's hosted the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan.
Today I have a very, very special guest, Dr. David Duke. I know you're controversial.
I mean, special is an interesting word.
But I have no idea how controversial.
And Thomas Russo, the leader of the white supremacist group Patriot Front.
Let's go where we disagree a little bit.
Yes, sure.
Let's hit race, because you're a white-only group.
So the organization only allows people of American ethnicity, and all Americans, I believe, come from Europe, so they're white.
I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. This bubble exhausts me. I'm ending stream. I don't want to. I'm exhausted. Like we're not even 3 minutes into this. I don't think platforming these people make any sense. I don't. I think platforming these people on a podcast, having a conversation about like whether or not people deserve rights based off of skin, like it's exhausting. Like it is just so silly. Yeah, chat says American ethnicity, so Native Americans. That's what I'm saying. Like, can we please be serious? Can we please be serious? And there's no seriousness. There's no authenticity. There's no like, it's just all ego and just brain dead conclusions off bad information. And I'm so tired that men think they're so smart and this is the best of them. Is this the best of you? Who is the best of the men? I want to know who men think is the best of men. That's what we really need. I need a poll. Who do men think the best of men is? Because girl, now I obviously blame patriarchy. I don't blame men. I blame patriarchy, and I blame men that continue to uphold the patriarchy at the expense of themselves, because I just don't think this is good for men. I don't think it's good for so many people. And that's why I don't like how the Young Turks, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like how the Young Turks engages with conservative media. Like, why are you talking to bigots? Like, neighbor to neighbor, be kind to everybody. But policy to policy, politician to politician, podcaster to podcaster, we shouldn't be uplifting these people. It is one thing for me, and I know I've gotten a few men, specifically white men in my audience who have identified themselves as such, saying that it feels like you really hate men. Listen, I don't hate you for being a man. But a few years ago, when I tried my best to make this space a safe space for men, when I talked to a lot of men who often had built their platforms off misogyny, it ended up hurting and becoming a threat to my audience. It became dangerous for me. It became dangerous for my audience. Men became dangerous for us. So as much as I would like men to be in my audience, I needed to be men who have deconstructed and understand that like you're a consciousness outside of your gender. And if you don't understand that, then every way you interact with me, every way you see me is going to be through the lens of you're a woman, so this, you're a man, so this. And I just don't think that's true of people. So yes, I want this to be a safe space for all genders, but not for men who uphold the patriarchy, not for men that are white supremacists, not for men who think that Trump isn't a rapist, not for men that love Andrew Tate, and not for men who build their whole career making fun of women, right? And that's the thing, is like I had those men in my audience. I had those men here, but y'all were feeling way too comfortable. And I'm sorry that I ever made you feel comfortable. Do I, individual to individual, feel sorry that a lot of you are facing a loneliness epidemic? Sure. But you can make that change. You have to make that decision, though. It's not women and it's not the world. It's you. And the same advice I'd give to any other minority of any other status. That from a philosophical lens, and this is a philosophy through pop culture channel, the world isn't holding you down. Your relationship with consciousness is. You're having a meaning crisis. And I want you to get better. But I need you to first stop blaming the world. And that's really, really hard for most people to do. It really is, right? So yeah, I'm sorry that I ever made really horrible men feel comfortable around me.
Of the American spirit final!
Yeah, no, I understand and talk to these guys, but I've also not brought anyone hateful. If I do, I'm going to be really on top of them.
But so you saying that you haven't brought someone hateful on, right? People say, well, you brought on
Yeah.
the Grand Wizard of the KKK,
Yeah.
you brought on Patriot Front.
Yeah.
They're hateful.
No, I think those are excellent questions, but if people go and watch the actual interviews, I think they would be like, oh, this guy's not near as hateful as if I expected.
But Vera says
Wait, this guy's not as hateful as I expected. You mean like David Duke? Yeah. Listen, I shared a quote in my Discord. Hold on, let me go grab it. It's from Pedro Pascal. He says, I know how to get along with everybody, but it doesn't mean I like everybody. Yeah, I know how to get along with everybody, but it doesn't mean I like you. And I think that's the thing, is like I can get along with I can get along with David Duke because I'm a human with empathy, and I can get along with people because all I have to say is like, imagine I'm David Duke. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, he's like a person on a planet. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I can get along with you until we talk about something relating to race. And now we're not getting along. Because again, human to human, you are more than your thoughts and your actions. But if your thoughts and your actions are the only version of you I know, then we're going to have problems. Now, this is a philosophical belief that I need you guys to deconstruct with me. You are more than your thoughts and actions. You exist outside of what you think and what you do. But if the only time I interact with you is through your thoughts and through your actions, then that is what I'm going to judge you on. And so we judge David Duke through that lens because that's all of him we get to see. But when he sits down as a podcaster, when he sits down in a conversation and you guys are talking about cherry pie versus strawberry pie, well, all of a sudden, this guy's pretty great. This guy's pretty great. Until you start talking about the things that make you not great. And that's the dilemma. Every single person on this planet could probably get along with other people on the planet until we start talking about things that separate us and make us realize like, oh, we might not be safe together. It's like when you're talking to a white person, you guys are getting along, and then they start telling you racist stuff because they think you're white the same way they're white. And you're like, oh, we are not the same. Or like when you're hanging out with straight people and they start being homophobic and you're like, oh, we are not the same. Yes, of course I'm getting along with you. Of course on a podcast, everything seems great. But the reality is this really great person is also doing really horrible things to people. You know, Chet said, and of course, David Duke is going to be nice to a white man. Exactly. Men also talking to men is different, right? When you feel defensive going into a conversation, you're going to come off differently than when you feel welcomed, you know? So when we have these conversations, it's like, yeah, of course it was cool. I mean, when I was hanging out with Sneeko, Destiny, and Abba, they were really nice until they weren't. They were really cool until they weren't. They were really great until I called them out for misogyny. They were really fun until I started saying like, hey, that's kind of transphobic. I called them out on rape issues. Like, yeah, they were all a lot of fun until they weren't. That's the problem. Everyone's kind of fun until they're not, until you realize they'll throw you under the bus if it makes sense for their boys. that they'll look the other way when things are unethical, as long as they want to protect the boys. You know? Yeah, like everyone's nice, everyone's great. But ultimately, like, you voted for Trump, or ultimately you're pro-MAGA, or ultimately you're homophobic, or ultimately you're transphobic, or ultimately, like, you make money at the expense of women. So yeah, of course he was great on your podcast, dude.
Hate isn't what the men she dated were really looking for.
One of these guys brought me to a political meeting.
And did they talk about politics?
Barely. They talked about, it was a bunch of men complaining about girlfriends and wives, regurgitating Andrew Tate type of advice about how to train your girlfriend, how to train your wife to be submissive. And so this group was supposed to be a political group, but they're talking about relationship problems.
You know, interesting, my farm brother had a neighbor, and the neighbor had like 5 or something kids, and he seemed like a nice guy, but had gone down sort of like a really bad red pill rabbit hole. So my brother was hanging out with him one night, and the guy goes, "Oh man, women." My brother's like, "Oh," and okay, and like didn't think anything of it, and just like thought, "Oh, that's like a weird thing to say out loud." But then the guy goes, "Man, women are just so dumb. Like they just don't know things, and you have to do everything for them." And my brother was like, "Oh, you can't talk about my wife that way." And the guy goes, "I'm not talking about your wife." He goes, "Well, my wife's a woman. And you can't think that way about your wife. Like, you're not showing dignity to your wife or your marriage if you're going around talking to your boys about how women are stupid." And it became like a really contentious moment because the neighbor is about like 20 something years older than my brother. So my brother was like, "Yeah, that's not okay." And I was like, "That sounds really scary." And then for a while there, just for a while, apparently he got better, but just for a while there, it became like really scary to think about hanging out with this guy because he had all these daughters and his wife, and the way he was talking was bitter. He was angry. Now, apparently he did get better. I don't know how much better, but my brother was like, "Yeah, you can't talk that way about women in front of me or my family. Like that's not dignified." And that's what we need. We need men, whether they're conservative or not, because my brother is a MAGA voter. He's not MAGA, but he's a Trump. He voted for, well, he's a Republican. He's a conservative. I say this because he doesn't own MAGA hats or something. He's not that guy. And he also forgot to vote this last election. He's not that guy, but he's a conservative. So he was like, he needs, like, men in that position need to stand up against other men who are saying these things because it is undignified. Like, my dad does not have bro friends. My dad has a lot of friends, well, they're cousins and Middle Eastern people, right? Who you'd only talk good about your wives. You do not talk bad about your wives. Do you know what I mean? Chad says, "Is Farm Brother an ally?" No. Well, not to gays. he's still, you know, obviously Catholic, right? But he's not gonna let anyone talk shit about his wife. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of dad I grew up with. Like, you don't talk shit about the wife, right? You don't talk shit about your wives. You do not come together to talk badly about the women you are with. So any man that is going around talking badly about women, do you know what I mean? Now, that doesn't mean I didn't grow up with misogyny. That doesn't mean my parents didn't suffer from misogyny, both internalized and otherwise. I can name all the ways my dad was misogynistic growing up and all the ways my mom had internalized misogyny. And yet I still grew up in a home that also had rhetoric that was like, you don't talk shit about women like that. But there were still problems, like talking about the differences between men and women, or saying, you know, doubting victims when they came out and spoke up, right? Like, all of that's misogyny. You know, believing women are Bathshebas or Delilahs or temptresses, and how you don't want to be that. You want to be the opposite. You want to be pious like Mother Mary. All of that is misogyny, right? Guised in this idea of being critical of character. So it's, you know, you can grow up in both homes. You have the duality of how you're raised. My dad raised me to be a CEO, and they raised me to be a stay-at-home mom. And it's like, well, which one? My dad's like, "I love that you own a business. When are you going to have kids? When are you going to quit and have kids?" It's like, no, hello? You know what I mean? Okay.
And the fact that that's what most of the time was spent on, you don't need to be a neo-Nazi. You need therapy.
The appeal of Jake's podcast speaks to a need among young men in this country that Vera says can't be ignored.
You have to incentivize someone to want to be better. You can't just say, "Let's make men better." The thing about these guys is their biggest support system is online, but that also is very isolating, and isolation is what breeds hatred.
Okay, hold on. As a girly who's always recommending to my friends to get on the internet. It's also where you choose to be. Because I had a friend who reached out and they were like, I'm just really struggling in like physical settings. I'm not liking anybody I'm hanging out with. I want to find more like-minded people. I was like, get on the internet. Like real life is great, but get on the internet. When you're neurodivergent, when you're queer, like you need to be on the internet because nobody's in your conservative town. Get on the internet. It's just like the difference is like, why do men end up in these horrible bubbles while women end up in much better spaces? You know what I mean? That's the question I have for people. Why is it? Now, obviously, it's not a monolithic experience. Lots of women end up in really bad spaces on the internet. But there does seem to be sort of like, why is this such a problem? I remember when I was at a conference, it was mostly a centristy liberally conference. It was a debate conference I was moderating. And a men go their own way guy came up to me and said, oh, hey, Brittany, I watch your content sometimes. I'm a man go their own way person. I was like, oh, yeah, you look like it. You look like one of those men. You have a look. And I know some people think that's like insulting, but I think looks signal things. You know what I mean? And I get if you miscategorize somebody, but you have an aura of a man who's decided to go his own way. You are unapproachable. You have an aura about you, right? There's like a thing, and I don't know if people know they're doing it or if they realize like, hey, like this is somewhat of a choice. Like you're making a choice and you do you. It's the same way when I hear like really bitter people say like, I'm never getting married. I'm never going to be with anyone. That was a horrible breakup. I never want it to happen again. Yeah, bro, that's just like your trauma, right? Like being a nihilist is not great for us guys. Like being like, nothing matters. Just fucking nothing matters. Like you're having an empty relationship with existence. You're not having a fulfilled relationship with existence. You can do it. There's nothing like there's nothing like objectively wrong with it. You're just not going to be joyful. You know, you're just not going to be joyful. So if you would like to be joyful, right? It's like the men who watch Rick and Morty and think Rick's like a good person. Rick is like the lesson in this story. He's like the lesson in the story. When you watch BoJack, he's the lesson. When you watch Attack on Titan, Eren is the lesson. He's the mistake. He's the bad guy. But I think we forget, and everyone does this, we romanticize the wrong things. We romanticize struggle without recognizing that there's wise suffering. You can romanticize wise suffering, but when you recognize really unwise suffering, you lead a life based off of that framework, and then you wonder why you're never happy. Okay? Like you remember what, like you don't understand why you're unfulfilled, right?
Groups like Patriot Front offer community, but community based on racism and hate.
People have to really think about, do you have the capacity to talk to people that you don't agree with? Because that one nice conversation you might have might change someone's day enough to not have to seek out help in an online support group, which is actually a bunch of white supremacists using political beliefs as an excuse for how they feel.
Donie O'Sullivan is here with us now. Donie, I'm so glad you've done this special. There's so much intrigue around this issue of the manosphere. And in fact, Trump is going to the UFC tonight. How big of a role does the sport play in the manosphere?
And that was one of Trump's successes, right? Trump got in there. He's one of the boys. Now, look, a woman could never do it. Men are too misogynistic to ever let Harris be one of the boys. My small time in the boy bubble made that abundantly clear to me that no matter how funny or smart or capable I was, I would always be a girl to men. And that's the problem. Like, I don't want to have to become the kind of woman who is able to feel welcomed in a space by misogynists when I know they'll never actually accept me. And that's the problem. Trump is really good. That's why Harris was never going to have a chance. And as a progressive, we're not exactly Harris fans here, but you know what I mean? Like, Harris was never going to have a chance to win over the male vote because inherently misogynistic men don't care. Look at the way they voted for Trump. He's a horrible man. But man, does that bro know how to podcast? Trump, his charisma is crazy. Boys eat it up like ass, bro. He did so good with the streamers. He did so good at UFC. He did so good in those bubbles. Harris could never contend with the misogyny of it all. And I think a lot of these men like Trump because he's a misogynist. Because I think a lot of these men think they are literally better than women simply because they were born men.
Hey, Isabel. Yeah, and look, we should point out at the start here. There's tons of guys.
Also, and I just want to say this, a lot of progressive men that are still upholding the patriarchy, a lot of those progressive men, I think Destiny is one of them as an example, which I didn't really realize when I was hanging out with him because I was a little confused, like on stream, we were just collabing, obviously. I didn't really realize it at the time, but I remember I was like, when I started to realize he wasn't actually progressive, even though he was like, I'm non-binary and I'm bisexual and I'm all these things. And I'm like, okay. I realized after some time, like he will throw women under the bus for the approval of men. He's very Myron-esque in that way. That's why him and Myron are friends. That's why Myron's always sucking Destiny's dick, probably literally, but I don't know. That's just an opinion. Okay. Which is fine. We're all about consensual sex. Okay. Not that Destiny would know anything about consent. Okay. I'm done with my jokes. Sorry. There's too much in there. There was too many possibilities for jokes there, but you know what I mean? Destiny will throw women under the bus so Myron likes him. Myron throws women under the bus so other men like him. There's the reason why there's a lot of like, are you guys just gay and that's the problem? There's a lot, and misogyny eventually just ends up gay. And that's why gay men are also misogynistic, by the way. Gay men suffer from misogyny. Just because you're gay doesn't mean you're not a misogynist. And I think there's like this idea that, oh, because I'm gay, I can't be a misogynist. Nope. Gay men also suffer from misogyny. They literally think they're better than women. Have you never been to like a gay guys group and they're like, no women allowed? We don't want to hang out with women. We don't want to see women. We don't want to be around women. I'm like, damn. Okay, hater. Like it's, because you're women, not just because like there's a special night where you don't want to be around them. You know what I mean? Chess is kind of like how you like women, but hate them. It's, well, like the guys in this group, they want to sleep with women, but they don't like them. It's why Myron will say something like, don't confide in your girl, confide in your boys. Myron even made the argument that honestly, getting your dick sucked by a man is kind of okay because all you're trying to do is get off. You don't really care about the person. And since even if it was a woman, like you don't care about her anyways. So what does it really matter who's sucking you off? And I was like, girl, would you please, bro? Just, okay. Like, I just feel like now, okay, let's talk about preventative work. How could these things have been prevented? Well, one, we know they had really bad childhoods growing up, so that could have changed things. Two, there's a lot of internalized racism. Myron wishes he was white. Destiny can't get over the fact that he's half Cuban. Okay, there's a lot of like racism there. Internalized white supremacy. We're dealing with homophobia. Internalized, we're dealing with a lot. Destiny wants to be the guy who debates Trumpers, and he's like anti-conservatism, but he ends up appealing to the boy groups the most. And you have to think about that turmoil these boys are all in. How could we have prevented it? Well, honestly, their parents kind of sucked. We know Destiny's parents sucked, whether he likes it or not. He has talked time and time again about the way they neglected him, right? How he has to bail them out and pay for their bills. Like they neglected their responsibilities as parents in order to raise children. They failed at raising like capable adults who Destiny's greatest feat is being able to make money. Well, scammers make money. Making money can't be the testament to your value as a person. Anyone can make money. You know what I mean? It's like this idea where you have this sort of like hate for the self in a particular way that they have to deconstruct. You have to raise children with a sense of healthy ego. You have to keep them humble, but love them through the process of their failures while making sure to guide them in a direction for successes that don't come at the expense of others. Right? Chad says, why do you say he can't get over the fact that he's Cuban? Everything I've seen from Destiny and how he treats people in general about their ethnic backgrounds, and myself included, right? He'll get on podcasts and say like, oh, Britney's just a white girl. Britney's just a white girl. That has to do with his Cuban denial, because you can call me whatever you want. I'm definitely white skinned, as is Hassan, but you know we're not white the way these white supremacist groups are white, because we're not from Europe, are we? So for Destiny to be like, you're just white, I'm just white, everyone's just white, it's a denial of his Cuban background, of his mom, who's definitely not white. We're not white passing, not white in any particular way. You know what I'm saying? So when we have that, when he already has that for himself, he's got that for others. So he discounts our lived experience and he goes, Hassan and Britney, they're just white. Who cares about them? It's a discounting of our lived experience, or the fact that our parents are immigrants, or the fact that we have a connection to an area of the world that like white people don't. Right? So again, all of this is just like little boys trapped in adult bodies who haven't gone to therapy, but they take it out on us. See how we have to suffer because they won't go to therapy? So when I say I want the space here on my channel to be very accepting to all genders, it also has to include people that recognize all genders. It can't be people that are like, these 27 genders and this alphabet soup and this, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're not welcome here. You being a man is not a bad thing. I love being a man. I am a man. But you deciding that you're inherently a better specimen because you were born a man, well, now we're going to have beef. Chez says, is it hard to succeed without coming at the expense of others? I feel like it would be kind of hard in a capitalistic world. I'm successful. And other than the fact that I own computers, it really didn't come at the expense of other people. You know what I mean? I didn't have to throw anyone under the bus. I didn't have to take anyone's job. I didn't have to hurt anybody. I simply had to create. I'm successful. I have a good job. I pay my rent. So, you know, no consumption or ethical consumption under capitalism. So I had to buy these computer parts, which you could argue is like a form of engaging in like tech bubbles that hurt the planet and come at the expense of XYZ. But, you know, it's about harm reduction, not perfection. But yeah, I don't lie. I have a very big stance. If I make mistakes on stream, I come back and I say sorry and I like change, you know, I fix my stories. But like, I don't make, you know, videos about people going after their mental health or their body or anything else that I feel like is harassment. Like I try very hard. So yeah, I'm successful. Do I count? Of course you can be successful. It just won't be millionaire status successful, but who cares? Right?
Guys who are fans, and some women as well who are fans of the UFC. I have many friends who are fans of the UFC. It certainly does not mean, you know, that if you are a fan of the UFC, you are falling sort of down this rabbit hole of hate and white supremacy and everything else. But what we are seeing is that there is this sort of, there is this crossover. The UFC is playing a greater and bigger role really in American life. Joe Rogan, who's the world's biggest podcaster, is a UFC commentator. Dana White, who is the founder of the UFC, is a prominent Trump supporter and was recently appointed to the board of Meta by Mark Zuckerberg himself, another big MMA and UFC fan. And actually fighting tonight in Miami, Trump is going to the event. We're not sure if he'll be there for the earlier fights, but fighting tonight in Miami at the UFC event is a fighter by the name of Bryce Mitchell, who recently set up a podcast of his own. And on his debut episode a few months ago, he said that Hitler was a quote-unquote good guy or a great guy. Dana White, the head of the UFC, was quick to condemn that, but you know, you can just kind of see there where folks who might be coming into this sport for one reason are a fan of fighting, and then they're getting exposed to views like Bryce Mitchell.
And that's the problem. You've all seen that clip, right? That's the problem. I don't think we should be platforming those guys. I don't think those guys should be, if I was in the UFC, that guy couldn't fight in my ring. Like, no, like there's just a line. Like, how hard is it for us to be like Hitler bad? Okay, like Hitler bad, genocide bad, but we can't. The reason I think we're starting to normalize Hitler is honestly so we can normalize Netanyahu. I swear there's a correlation between men who are willing to genocide a whole group of people for their own political benefit. Everything Netanyahu is doing is so deeply unethical, but we're standing by him. The United States is standing by him, right? So I don't know. I think that's a part of it sometimes. I find that so deeply frustrating. Now, let's go to the Young Turks. I found their reaction to this video, and I just thought this section was so funny, and I want to talk about it.
So after all of those dates, how did this thing end for Vera? Well, she says, after these dates, I started to answer my own questions. I was too different from them in ways that made romantic or sexual attraction impossible. Despite my willingness to be open to anything, none of my dates progressed beyond talking. I mean, I have a question about how open she really was. I mean, there's entrenched first person reporting, but you're still coming to the circumstance as you're showing up as who you are. But I guess first, I'm curious what you think of just taking on this assignment in the first place as some kind of investigative journalism.
Yeah, boy, I'm so conflicted on this. And I'm not sure where I come out on it. Maybe we'll figure it out as we talk it through, right? So number one, I'm 100% with you. Come on, you weren't really gonna date those guys. Come on, right? Like, and I think she's saying that to kind of make it seem like, no, I'm not taking advantage of them. And I came in with an open mind, right?
What do we think about that? The language already, the opener, right? So she went undercover on dating the far right and figuring out what it was like going on dates with them. And he's saying, I think she's saving face to claim not taking advantage of them. Are you taking advantage of people when you go on dates with them, whether you're ready for a committed relationship or not? Because then that would, like, regardless of why you're doing it, like, most people are going on dates to figure out themselves. So, you know, as long as you're upfront and honest, that's fine. But she is looking for a partner. She just, like, isn't going to find a partner there, but that doesn't mean she can't engage with sort of figuring out, like, I wonder what this bubble is like, right? True. Is it Jank? I always forget how to say his name. I don't watch him enough. Is desperate to appeal to the right wing. Isn't it funny? I used to watch them all the time and I just can't remember. It's also, I think, my autism. When I learn a pronunciation of something, I can't remember the right one. It's why I can't learn Croatian. I'm really struggling. Once I learn the wrong way to pronounce things, I can't remember the right way to do it. And then I guess myself every time. I hate it. I really hate it. My brain is horrible at language. Anyways, Jank. It is Jank. Okay, thank you, Jack. Yeah, already this narrative is interesting to me. Now, I will say, obviously, the journalism is interesting because every time we talk to somebody on the opposing end, we try to humanize them to the best of our ability. But every interview, every platforming, every story, everything we're ever doing is sort of not just about the person. It's always about the thing where it's like saying, like, oh, did you go to your job and tell your boss that you're late for work because your kid had trouble, but you actually were late for work because you had a flat tire and you didn't want to tell them? And then, or because you drank too much and then you showed up to work. Are you taking advantage of your boss? It's like, you know, not everybody needs to know why I'm there, but sometimes you just got to figure out stuff for yourself. So I don't think she was exactly taking advantage of these men. I think it'd be different if she said, hey, I went undercover for a year and took the life savings out of all these men's pockets, but they're racist, so who cares? Well, then I'd be like, ew, that's really gross. Like, I would say that's really gross behavior to take money out of people's wallets, period. But she didn't say that. She just said, yeah, I tried dating in the right-wing circles. I did it for a year. It was horrible. Let me tell you about it. And I was like, cool. I want to know what that's like. Yeah, I dated in this bubble. I tried. It was not for me. Like, that's a pretty cool story. So I feel like the way he's framing this is silly.
So on the other hand, she got amazing information. So I don't know, like, I'm kind of torn on it on that front. And then for the guys, so the part of the reason that they want to go back to the way things were is because, and I feel bad saying this, like, they're the guys that were described, some of them are just awful human beings, right? The swastikas and the grabbing of her wrist and talking about beating women, just as despicable as you could be. These guys, unfortunately, they're not able to compete in the modern day. And be able.
There never were. I don't know why we're being so dishonest to men. Do you see how the patriarchy lies to men and tells them men always were viable candidates for partnership, which is not true? There's always going to be, and there always has been, groups of men who are unable to partner with people. That is just the truth. And you are part of that population and you believe so much in evolutionary biology. Girl, you're about to be evolutionaried out of the dating pool. Congratulations, your sperm sucks. Now, obviously, since you don't like that answer, go to therapy. Your personality sucks. Oh, you don't like that answer either? Okay. You're starving from a meaning crisis. You should do some philosophy work. You don't like that answer either? Okay, hold on. Let me find an answer you're willing to engage with. Oh, there isn't any? Okay, cool. Or at least there isn't any answer that doesn't come at the expense and safety of women. Got it. So, like, again, I think when we're having these conversations, we're being so dishonest with men that they've always had a chance. Women too. We've all struggled with partnership. This is a very unique time to be alive because people have more agency than they've ever had. You have to let people make choices. You have got to learn that being single is fine. My partner and I were both single for quite some time before we got together. Okay. And we were really happy with our lives, like really, really happy with our lives. And we only decided to get married because we made each other's life better. And we're best friends and we like each other a lot, obviously. And we're in love and blah, blah, blah. But like, we genuinely were like, I'm not going to marry you unless it literally is the right person because my life is so good right now. And I'm not going to get rid of that for you, you know? And so again, it's this idea that, that partnership is everything, that you're defined by your partnership, that you're unworthy if you're not partnered. And I grew up in that bubble, sort of. It's interesting. I grew up in a Catholic bubble that sort of said, like, don't marry the wrong person. Wait for the one God made for you. But yet I noticed that the boys, like, I do have a couple of, like, I've got one out of the 8 brothers who kind of struggled with dating because they actually struggled to date when they were young. And I noticed that my brothers who didn't struggle to date so much when they were young don't struggle as much as they get older. And so then I kind of wonder how much of this is actually just like, you need to date when you're young. But then my parents didn't allow us to date. We weren't supposed to date until we were 18. But then, you know, all of us had like secret boyfriends and girlfriends. But like, I look at the siblings that didn't have any romantic relationships in high school, and they are actually, there's two of them. They struggled the most, I think. And then the ones that didn't have exactly relationships but knew they were desirable did okay, right? I think it's just getting it when you're young to know that you're valued by strangers and people might be interested in you as friends or romantic relationships is helpful to build like a confidence. But maybe that's what's actually missing in a lot of these people, because a lot of the incels that I've noticed exist often say they're autistic, they don't have good hygiene, they have a lot of mental health problems. And a part of me is like, yeah, I think you just have to be a person that likes yourself, that genuinely thinks like you're good and fun to be around, and then really understands that other people are like their own consciousness outside of you. Like people exist outside of you. I really think a lot of these people are actually craving validation. They're craving love. They're craving craving like for someone to look at them and want them and to value them and to see that they're valuable, but they're looking in all the wrong places. And I do think parents are bad at their job. I think most parents are pretty bad at their job. I think a lot of parents are very bad at giving their kids their needs, or meeting their kids' needs. And I think that this is really the problem. So you got to stop blaming the women that won't date your sons and wonder how you raised a son that no one wants to date. Don't you think it's a little strange that you raised a son nobody wants to date? Considering that serial killers literally have like fangirls from outside of prison. How the fuck do serial killers have fangirls and your son can't get a date? Girl, that's crazy. You know what I mean? That's crazy. Okay?
To date women that they want to, and they get angrier and angrier, and then that isolation happens. And so the only thing they could think of.
Chat says, I guess if you're an ugly poor man, then you're fucked. Have you seen America? So many ugly poor men get pussy. I think this is also a lie. Ugly people have partners every day. I see ugly couples every day, and they're beautiful. Okay, I refuse to believe ugliness is playing a role when all y'all ugly as fuck and you got ugly families and you're all so beautiful because of it. And I say that very, very sarcastically, but I'm sorry. Some of the ugliest people I know are very in love. And, studies have shown that the prettier you are, the less likely you are to be approached. That pretty people actually very much struggle with partnership because people are intimidated. So I don't want to hear it.
The only thing that resonates with them is, well, what if we could go back to when men controlled women and did it through violence? And so that way they couldn't disagree with us. They'd have to say yes, right? And so that is an enormous admission of defeat that you just couldn't figure out how to succeed in relationships.
Yeah, thank you, chat. I remember people having meltdowns that ugly people had orgies. How many people are on Twitter or TikTok making fun of polyamorous people because poly people are ugly, but they're all getting pussy? Like, back off. Polyamory people be fucking, and whether or not you think they're ugly or not, they be fucking. And that's why you're jealous. That's why you're mad, because you think you deserve pussy and these people are getting it. Okay, trust me, I did poly for 10 years. You do not have to be attractive to get pussy. You just got to be a good person, bro. You just got to be nice. And all of a sudden you're doing D&D and fucking strap-on sex right after. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I'm telling you, all these polyamorous friends I got who are 10 years into dating, all of them got multiple partners. Okay? Everyone's attractive in their own way, but not everybody's like a fucking 10 out here, okay? If you're a 6 at a dungeon, you're a 10. Do you know what I mean? If you're a 4 at a dungeon, you're like a solid 8, like a 6 to 8. You don't got to be that hot, okay? And that's the point. I don't believe in this idea that you got to be pretty, okay? I say that as somebody who's been misgendered and made fun of for how she looks, somebody that's like somewhere in the middle. Like, people think I'm pretty, but people also think I'm ugly. Look, girl, if you think I'm hot, that's great. But like, when it comes to love, nobody cares what you look like. We only care about the relationship we're having to self and to you. So all these boys that are like, I'm too ugly and women won't date me, it's your personality, hun. And also, just a reminder, let's zoom out. 2 great people can still make a bad couple. All these people are settling. Everyone is settling. Okay, they're settling. And because you are settling, you are like, well, why can't I settle for somebody? Not everybody, if you're settling, there's different requirements. Okay? And because everybody is settling, I feel like sometimes these men are like, why won't anybody settle for me? Well, because if they're going to settle, they might as well settle for somebody who doesn't think they're a piece of shit for being born a woman or being born brown or disabled. Like a lot of these men are mean. Like a lot of these men are so mean. And they're like, why doesn't anyone like me? You're mean. You're literally a meanie.
In the modern world, right? And so, and I think that she's absolutely right that.
And I also think it's kind of gross to be a person whose only goal in life is to get laid. What are you, Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother? That's so old, bro. Okay? I think that's the other thing. If your whole goal is just to have sex, like that's the problem. Nobody wants to be friends with you or get to know you. Like, who's going to be proud to be like, this is my friend George. He's really great. His ultimate goal in life is to get pussy. Like, that's not a good, that doesn't look good on the resume. That's so pathetic. That's so pathetic. Your whole dream in life is just to get laid? Hire a sex worker and treat them nicely.
They get into the spiral, right? First, they have the issues to begin with. Secondly, they then look for an excuse. Guys like Andrew Tate give them the excuse. And then they start becoming more misogynistic. And then that's not how this, I mean, there's plenty of misogyny in the world, but that is not how you're going to be able to successfully date in America these days, right? So that leads to more failure and more isolation and more anger and frustration and more hatred. And then they think, well, maybe that's the answer, more anger and hatred. And then they start going towards white nationalism and other like evils that come along with that spiral, right? So, and I think she did it kind of a really good job of exposing like the variety there and the depth of it, right? So you're getting a range of guys from bad to horrible. You're getting a range of like how they get down the rabbit hole, like a broad understanding of it. So there was a lot of value in it.
Also, okay, wait, hold on. Chat, I don't know. I'm going to use your comment to bounce off a larger idea I was thinking about. Wait, where did it go? I had it. You said, I never thought I was ugly or unattractive, but is this why people don't ask me out? Okay, so I want to talk about this because I'm an asker outer. I ask everybody out. I don't wait for people to ask me out. Okay, I slid into my partner's DMs. I slide into people's DMs. Like, I don't wait for people to ask me out. Ain't got no time for a girl. I'm a Taurus. Okay, I'm a Taurus. So as a girl who asks people out, here's what I've noticed. One, the reason I started asking people out is because men had said women never ask me out. So I was like, okay, I'll ask you out. That's the first thing. Okay. Once I heard from men saying they're kind of insecure when it comes to asking women out, I was like, I'll do it then. I'll ask you out. Okay. The dilemma is, and here it is, it doesn't matter how many men I ask out if all of them are the wrong man for me, right? But let me tell you this, as a girl who's friends with other girls who don't ask men out and they want men to ask them out, and I use this story as an example. My friend and I will be at Target or something. We don't go to Target now, but you know what I mean. Okay, we'll be at Target. Target needs to get their shit together. And my friend does this. My friend's body language is this. Okay, they don't make eye contact. They don't look around. They're very much like this, which is great. You know, when I act like that, when I don't want anyone to talk to me. Versus when Brittany wants people to talk to her, I do this. And I make eye contact with every single person I pass by. I maybe even smile. Maybe I even like make a little bit of a face. I'm giving body language that says, I'm open. You can talk to me. Right? Now, sometimes when you give body language that says, don't talk to me, people still talk to you and those people suck. Right? And that's the difference. When you're giving closed body language and people talk to you, they suck. But if you're giving closed body language and you're like, why is no one talking to me? Well, then you suck. Okay? We are social creatures. Like birds be out here flapping their wings and being like, you got to do that too, girl. You got to be like, do you like me? You know what I mean? Do you like me? And then you got to actually get past the attraction part of the physicality and then actually see if you like the person as a person. And probably you won't. That's the other thing. You probably won't fucking like them. And that's okay too. Okay? You probably won't fucking like them. I think we forget that too. Just because you're vibing doesn't mean they're your person. And I know people get defensive. I went on this date with this guy during COVID and it just wasn't my person. Okay? Plenty of reasons, but wasn't my person. And I eventually told him over the phone and he was mad. He was like upset. And I get that, but I think that's a part of training. We are not good at training people to accept breakups or like ending of things, right? And I think that's a learned skill and nobody has it. And I think I'm really good at it because of a biological experience that I have in my brain. When people say, oh, hey, Britt, like I'm not interested, I go, okay. And then it just shuts off. Any attraction, any interest I had in that person just goes away instantly. Something happens. I don't think I have control over it, but I go, oh, okay. And I think it's I'm convinced it's an efficiency, something in my brain that when I see, because I think of it as like I'm looking for that person. So if you're not my person, cool. I'm going to keep looking for that person. And I believe you have millions and millions of high compatibility partners. That's why, when I was serious about dating and courting, like not just getting to know myself, but like serious about it, it was easy for me to go on dates and be like, you're not my person. Next, you're not my person. Next, you're not my person. And then when I met my person, I was like, something about you. There's something about this girl, you know? Ooh, look at this little spammer says, is this why you got graped? Because you were too forward and looking forward? Oh, you tried to hurt my feelings today. Wow. Wow, you're lucky that I'm 36 and I've been to therapy. That's a very mean thing to say. See how they're mean? You see how they're mean? Wow. And then they wonder why they're alone and nobody wants to be with them. You all are mean. That's a mean thing to say. Yeah, I like how they said graped. I like how they had to censor the topic. Y'all are so mean. That's a horrible thing to say to somebody, you know? And then they sit here and wonder why they're single.
At the same time, leading them to.
What are we going to do with all these men? Ethan, come save this baby boy from chat. What are you going to do without all these men? Somebody needs to love these men. If nobody loves these men, what's going to become of them? What if they kill themselves because nobody loves them?
To believe you're on a real date when I don't think those are real dates at all, it does make me a little uncomfortable. So I don't know how to resolve that. So, okay, now that I said that, back to you. What do you?
Well, I get what you're saying there about she tricked them. But look, with this online dating, that goes on every day. Everyone's showing up as somebody else, and then in person, it's like, excuse me. So I can probably get past that. The one thing that as I'm reading through some of her observations, these are some extreme examples, like you said, tattoos and, white national and all kinds of stuff. But I did a focus group during the presidential campaign, Black men, right? And not all of them, but the majority, I would say. Some of these same, and this is just one snapshot. Okay, it wasn't scientific. I'm not saying Black men only thing, but some of the things that these guys, according to Vera, represented about a better time, and a man should lead, and they were talking about Kamala Harris as she's too mouthy, her reasons were not your reasons, okay, Cenk, for their reasons for not voting for her. It was that and by the way, why'd she pick that guy instead of one of us? And so this runs the gamut, and I hear this a lot. I really wish they could ask that question and be really interested in it. Like, why did they pick her or pick them and not us? That's a really good question. I think that's a really good question. I wish we were actually interested in the answer. From some guys who I know who say, you would emasculate someone. This is why, I'm happy in my house alone. So it's fine for now. Okay. But I'm just telling you what they say. They don't like a big mouth. Okay. And I think that that's something that is not just, doesn't just belong to guys who have swastikas on their arms and tattoos and things. There's a lot to examine here. I do agree with you though, when you say these are people who feel defeated and can't compete. If I wanted something, I would get after it, right? And not just think, well, because. It's interesting. It's hard to have this conversation because you kind of want to ignore the fact that hey, why are white nationalist men struggling with dating? Well, probably because you're a white nationalist. Next. Okay, why are men who are not white nationalists struggling with dating? Probably because you're a misogynist. Next, why are men who aren't misogynists struggling with dating? Joke's on you, all men are misogynists until they deconstruct. So that's the dilemma. If American women are moving more progressive, liberal, and deconstructing, and men are moving more right and maintaining traditionalism, the answer is right there. What is the big fucking mystery? Y'all don't share values or perspectives. It's not that fucking deep.
The question is, it's only deep if you are examining the individual. If you're examining trans, it's really fucking obvious. It's like saying like, hey, why aren't transphobes dating trans people? I don't know, maybe because they're fucking transphobic, which is the joke because a transphobe can date a trans person. But you know what I'm saying? Like, what do you mean? It's so obvious. But the question, or I think the difference is that a lot of people's grandmas and moms settled for relationships, so they expect their wives to settle for them. Look, there's a reason why after divorce, women do better and men don't. Women literally do better after divorces, even when they get no money. Because I know a lot of men are like, oh, women do better after divorce because they have all this money. Even women who don't take a penny out of their divorces are literally happier after divorce than men. I'm telling you right now, any skill, any tool that women have picked up over the years, men are neglecting. I think when you're born, it's like when you're born a white man, you know what I mean? And you're born into privilege and with money, like your struggle is just different. And you keep thinking, well, if they're struggling and I'm struggling, all struggle is the same. All struggle is different. And you don't understand that like you were born into this idea of already being sort of like the thing everybody wants to be. So you don't understand why you're not being picked. But you're not, one, in fashion anymore. And two, you're not good enough anymore because ultimately like you're either ignorant in a way that's harmful, or two, you're unsafe because of your belief systems, or three, you're just not that interesting. We saw this on Love is Blind. So many of the men on that show were just kind of fucking basic boring in a way that these women just like couldn't contend with. Like, these men couldn't contend with the women. But the women are just like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. Like, you know how men are like, oh, women, all they do is talk all day. Talk, 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 talk. You say that like it's a bad thing. It's okay if you marry somebody who doesn't talk a lot because you don't talk a lot. Or you marry somebody who talks a lot because you don't mind. But for me, it's a perk that my partner likes to talk so much. I'm comforted in the fact that my partner likes to talk so much. So again, we do these dating things where it's like one size fits all when it's so obviously not the truth. Just the fact that some of us are religious and some of us aren't obviously is going to play a role in dating. So if men are more likely to go to Christian churches or Muslim church or mosques and they're becoming more religious, then the women who aren't are obviously not going to be paired up with them. The issue is that instead of being okay with that, men are saying women ought to become religious. Women ought to have babies. Women ought to move towards traditionalism. So I love that feminism is the blame for everything. So when women are more miserable because of feminism and men are more miserable because of feminism is their thinking. When in reality, it's just a lack of acceptance that like we're moving in different directions. We're doing different things. The world is changing. This is why I say, please know that you can have a joyful life as an individual and as a community member, but it's not defined on whether or not you have a partner. And the more you have a better relationship with yourself, I promise you, not only will you be okay not being partnered, but when you find that person you know is high compatibility, it will feel as magical as the storybooks. It will feel like it's 1 in a million. It will feel so cool because you're like, wow, this is real. The dilemma is people pretend they have it and they don't. And then when they all get divorced 4 or 5 years into the marriage, they're like, how did this happen? You didn't know who you married. You were not having what I call high compatibility. You were having what I call settling. This guy's nicer than the last guy I dated, so good enough. This woman's prettier than the last girl I dated, so good enough. You know? Chet says, Brittany, why do you think that lots of guys get mad when girls call them boring? I think the word, it's the same word with basic. Like it sounds insulting because there's a value judgment on it. But I think what I like to think of it as is like the bubble difference. Like honestly, I think like a lot of religious seminars are really boring. But to be honest, I also think D&D stuff is so fucking boring. Did I marry somebody who plays like Pathfinder and D&D twice a week? I did. I think it's really fucking boring. And I have to really put on my thinking cap when I'm listening to my partner talk about it so I can sort of engage. But I think it's really fucking boring. But without it being a judgment, my partner just sees it as me explaining how I don't like it. Not that it's boring outside of my perception. I don't think it's boring outside of my perception. I think it's boring within my perception. So when my partner talks to me about it, like I'm excited for them. But like, I have no way of engaging in this thing that's as exciting. Kind of like anime. My partner and I both love anime. So when we talk about anime, we're both really excited and we think it's really, really great. But when other people are like, ew, I would never date a guy who watches anime, I'm like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of the people in my life don't watch anime. A lot of my besties don't watch anime. But we have other things we have in common. Do you know what I'm trying to say to you? I'm trying to say that people take it personal when people are talking about themselves. No, I think there's a way to do it that's not rude. So if somebody was coming up to me and they were like, I really love D&D, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's so great. My partner plays D&D. I wouldn't sit there and be like, actually, I think D&D is boring, because that's fucking rude. Okay, that's not okay. When people share their happiness with you, you don't get to poo-poo it all over it. Okay, you get to say, that's so great. I'm so glad that's good for you. Assuming it's not bigotry. Assuming they're not like, you know what I love? Racism. You're like, that's so great. Like, okay, that's not the thing. So I think that's the thing is like, when we're dating people, we should be kind in explaining like, or moving past our differences. Now I'll say this, when a person asks me, why don't you want to further date me? I think when I was younger, I would blame it on the specifics of the relationship. And now that I'm older, I would just say like, I'm looking for a very specific partner who kind of sees the world and does the world like me in their current form. And I just feel like we're not matched right now, but that's okay, because you're going to be like really happy with somebody else for sure, or whatever that means. But I'm looking for a very specific person. I just don't think you're it. And if they go, well, why not? Then I have to go like, well, for one, the person I want to be with values consent. I don't want to be with you. That's all you need to know. Do you know what I mean? We're just dating. That's all you need to know. We're on a first date. That's all you need to know. Now, if I've been married to my partner for 15 years, my partner goes, hey, I don't want to be with you. Okay, now you're going to have to explain why, because we've kind of been living together for 15 years. You don't get to just say, I don't want to be with you. It's like, yeah, you have the consent to leave this marriage, but I'm entitled to know why. We've kind of been together for a long time, bro. You're kind of my best friend. So if my sibling was like, hey, I don't want to talk to you anymore, I'd be like, hey, why? And usually they'll tell me, and I'm like, okay, bye. Right? Like, I'm not going to stop somebody from not wanting to be around me. But I feel like you build a relationship enough with some people to feel a little entitled to know why. But if they don't want to tell you, they don't want to tell you. So also, you're not entitled literally, but it's okay to feel entitled. What's weird is that people you've been dating for like a week or two feel entitled to know why in a way that they feel like is going to give them the insight into themselves. But you have to understand, like, if you're dating a Catholic and the Catholic person accidentally goes on a date with a pro-choicer and they go, oh, I'd keep dating you, but you're pro-choice. The pro-choicer doesn't then become pro-life to date the Catholic. At least I hope not. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't change to be dateable to the person you're dating. You date somebody that matches your values, and then you grow into a person that's going to be healthy. My partner and I are always aiming to be more healthy, but we're not aiming to change our political views to be more attractive to each other. I like my partner exactly for who they are. And if this is who they are forever, I'm on board. But we always have to be growing. It's a requirement of our relationship. A lot of relationships also divorce because of stagnation. For some reason, there is a stereotype of men becoming very stagnant in their relationships and the women outgrow them. And I think a big part of that is that women are community members. So we're very big on thinking about people. Think about Miss Rachel. Miss Rachel is very much thinking of the community. Now imagine if Miss Rachel was dating a guy who did not encourage or uplift her in this endeavor. That would be a pretty big deal. It'd be a pretty big deal if my partner was like, hey, I don't like the way you advocate for LGBT people on your stream every day. Like, just think about how weird that would be if I told you guys, oh, my partner, yeah, they're super, like, they're not very big on the multiple gender stuff or whatever. Wouldn't that be so fucking weird? But I think that's happening. I think a lot of women are going home to men that are, just like we saw in yesterday's podcast. We did a stream where we watched a podcast where she's like, I don't know how my husband voted for Trump. Look, if your husband voted for Barack Obama but is in tech, he most likely is going to vote for Trump. And that's what's funny. Liberal women, not progressive women, liberal women know that a lot of the people who voted for Obama were conservative. I don't know how you didn't learn this. Everybody knows that the reason all those people came out to vote for Barack is because a lot of conservatives came out to vote for Barack. I don't know why anyone thought voting for Barack Obama meant you wouldn't vote for Trump. See, to me, I would assume any guy who voted for Barack and specifically is in tech and specifically identifies as a Democrat or a liberal is more likely to vote for Trump. Definitely. The fact that by the way, Barack Obama was a long fucking time ago. Can I also just point that out? In yesterday's stream, the woman said, my husband and I marched for Obama. Obama was like a billion years ago. Where did he go with Biden, Trump? Where did he go with all the elections in between then? What happened in 2016? Like, have you talked to your partner about politics at all in the last like 8 years, 10 years? Do you know what I mean?
You know, this or that. I don't get a fair shake in this world, but that's it's interesting what she did. A little contrived, I think, but I still found it interesting.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. I'm landing on contrived, but definitely interesting. And so now back to the main issue of the guys there. God, you put it so well in so many ways, and I want to like really emphasize it because I think this is important. So for the guys who are at the bottom of the rabbit hole that went all the way down that rabbit hole, and they're, you know, whatever their race is, but they've got these crazy thoughts about, oh, man or woman shouldn't have independent thought or doesn't have independent thought, and you know we should have consequences for their disagreeing with me and that kind of nonsense talk. Look, if they take any kind of action towards that, that's easy, arrest, etc. Right? I'm not talking about speech. I'm talking you hit someone. You know, there's got to be, you don't talk about consequences, there's got to be real consequences for that, right? So we're not having any of that. We're not having any of that, right?
What?
But for the guys who are at the beginning of the rabbit hole, like we on the left, I feel do too much of, haha, you're a loser, you couldn't compete, etc.
See, this is the not so erudite position. I hate this position. This position of like, before the boys really get radicalized, we should get them out of that position. What do you think happened to the rest of us? What about every other minority that manages not to go down this rabbit hole? What are we doing different that you're not doing? That's the fucking question. What about all of us who are gay, straight, trans? Like we were all literally sitting here having to figure it out on our own, and we didn't, during that course, become fucking racist bigots. What did we do different? Well, a big part of it is that we were raised as women or raised femme, or we were actually curious, or we had different pathways, or we were men who weren't put in those positions because our curiosity outpaced our bigotry, right? Like that should be the question. What happened differently? Why did this group go this way and this group go that way? And I'm going to be honest with you, when I look at my brothers, I think it was parenting. I think my parents failed a lot of my brothers. In terms of paying attention to social media, also paying attention to their misogyny, and my parents voted for Trump. So why wouldn't my brothers then vote for Trump? I remember when my dad was arguing with my brothers over Andrew Tate. My dad was like, why do you like Andrew Tate? He's a bad person. My brother's like, he's kind of cool and he fights, he's kind of cool. And my dad's like, I don't like him very much. Just like Jordan Peterson, who doesn't like Tate very much. But then who do these men like? They like Trump and Netanyahu. I don't know. I don't think my dad likes Netanyahu, but you know what I'm saying? They like Trump. What's the difference between Trump and Tate? What do you actually think is the fundamental difference? That's how these men are missing it. That's how these men are fucking missing it. That Peterson and my dad, who hate Tate, love Trump. Y'all need to fucking make it make sense. And these young boys that you're confused by who chose Tate, they chose Tate for the same reason you chose Trump. Period. And the fact that they can't figure that out is what's crazy. Like, are you for real right now? Please.
And I want to be clear that that's not what I mean. I mean, like, I get it, guys. You're having trouble competing. And I've said this for many years.
And back to the chatter in my chat who said competing against two. Exactly. Competing against two, girl. Get it out of your head, you capitalist. You're not in a rat race for love, y'all. You're in the rat race for meaning. And get out of the rat race because meaning isn't found in it. Chad says, how do you and your pro-Trump siblings interact with each other, especially with your videos criticizing their stances? Well, first, they don't watch my content. And if they do watch my content, they already know where I stand. We just have a conversation about it. It's awkward. We get through it. They know where I stand, right? When I walk in the house, they're like, the progressives here. And I'm like, what's up? You know what I mean? Yeah, like, I don't know. We're siblings and we want to prioritize our relationships over our politics. But also, like, none of us are budging. I'm not budging on my politics. And like, they might budge one day, but right now they're just like, boys, not all of them too. I have 8 brothers. Each brother has their own personal, unique way of looking in the world. So I'm generalizing a lot for them. But each brother has their own personal relationship with meaning, ideology, belief, political stance. Some haven't even registered to vote, but like love Trump. So like every single one of them has their own, their own viewpoint, right? I'm just generalizing for the sake of conversation, right? Chet says, what about their partners who also support Trump? Who said they have partners? My brother's single as fuck. My brother's handsome, single, and employed. Only 2 of my brothers are currently in relationships. I think that's right. Yeah, I think only 2 of my brothers are in relationships right now. Because my family didn't raise us prioritizing being in a relationship to be in one. They date and stuff, but like they don't really vibe. They're not vibing. And a lot of the younger ones, like, yeah, no one's, I'm telling you, there is an economic crisis happening. Nobody has time to date. We're all working 80 hours a week. All my brothers work like 10 hours a day. Ain't no time to date when you're working as much. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the other thing. Like, my mom thought all her kids would have 10 kids by now. Not in this economy. Not in this economy. Stop blaming women and blame the economy. None of us have time to date. None of us have time to meet people. You know what I mean? I think people are forgetting this loneliness epidemic men are feeling. It's tied to the economy.
Years now. I had trouble competing, right? And I was a nerd. I was a significant nerd. And I was super nervous around women, right? Around girls and
this
stuff.
This is settling culture. Competing culture is settling culture.
Like that. And I didn't know how to get there. And slowly I figured it out. And so the answer isn't being antagonistic to women. That is definitely not the right answer, right? The answer isn't insulting women. That is not the right answer, right? And the answer isn't, hey, give up or etc. Or for us to go ha-ha to them, right? I think the answer is showing them, hey, how do you do it? Not in a patronizing way, but in a way like, look, guys, I'll tell you my point of view on it. The number one thing that will help you in that regard is confidence, okay? Yep. And not like in an ugly way, just in a strong, real way. Secure with yourself, and this is what I'm going to do in the world, this is what I'm doing in the world, this is what I want to accomplish.
But not because you're trying to get a partner. If your motivation from doing anything is just to have a partner, just like money, listen to me. If your only reason for doing anything is to get money, when you get it, you're still gonna be lost. If your only reason for doing anything is to get pussy, then when you get it, you're gonna be lost. Everything you do must have a bigger meaning than getting something. It must have a meaning to it. That's the dilemma. That's why all these men, Myron Gaines says you should have sex with 500 women or whatever. Yeah, because he's unhappy. He's gross. He has money, fame, status, women. The man is so unhappy. The man is so unjoyful. It's insane, you know?
This is who I am. This is my beliefs. And holding strong to that. And when you do that, I think that's what people respect. And that's what folks, I mean, you want to talk about biology, that's what folks are looking for. A strong man doesn't beat up on other people. A strong man isn't insecure and doesn't lash out. A strong man does his own thing and then tries to find someone who loves that and works with them on that, right? And is a partnership. I think you'd be far better off going in that direction. But Sharon, that's my guess as a guy. What do you think?
I think you could have you should maybe take that on the road and think of how many people you could help by just talking about your experience. But I agree with you. Confidence to me is the sexiest thing. I tend to think looks are one.
I think humility is very attractive to me. I actually prefer humility more than confidence. I think humility is a better form of confidence than confidence, because confidence, especially by American standards, is ego, and humility is confidence through like a wholesome ego. You know what I mean? Like you want a healthy ego. I actually prefer wise humility in my partner. I think that's what I was always missing. I always went for guys that felt confident or women that felt confident, but all of them lacked humility. All of them lacked like a deep sense of kindness. Yeah, I think this is the first partner I've been with that is deeply kind. And yeah, like a deeply kind person, you know? Chet says, I guess my question was, if your MAGA brothers found a MAGA partner, would you extend the same grace to them you would your brothers? Yeah, of course. What do you mean? Yeah, like my sister-in-law's great. She's fucking awesome. My farm brother's wife, she's great. She's fabulous. She's just everything. She's a conservative. She's great though. She's fabulous. Yeah, whoever my brothers fall in love with and have a life with, and that's their life partner, like they're my sibling now. They're my family. Yeah, for sure. Like we're not the kind of family that marries strangers. Do you know what I'm saying? Like we're the kind of family that like who you marry is now family, period. Like you are now family. You are now a part of the guild. Do you know what I mean? We don't really have, yeah, like even ex-partners who have been in the family, like married into the family and divorced, like they're still homies. They're still family. Do you know what I mean? Like once you marry into the family, like, but to be fair, like we've never really married somebody who didn't get there. So maybe that'd be different if somebody married. Nobody's married the wrong person in that sense. Like even the person that got divorced in the family, they married like a really great person. They just didn't work out. Like, I don't know. They like, Jess says, what if you married a woman? Well, you did, never mind. Well, I think the difference is like, if I married a AFAB person, or if something, if the partnership presents it in a way that's against people's religion, it's not really about that person because there are siblings that would treat them like family. So like there's 12 people in my family. And if majority of those people treat my partner like a family member, then like the family treats you like a family member. Or if all, you know what I mean? If the ones I have a relationship with treat you like a family member, you're a family member. Like I remember when I was dating a girl, she came to meet my siblings and they like embraced her. Even the ones that were a little bit more conservative or like still chill, they embraced her. It's not like they rejected her or something. Like my parents didn't meet her, but like my siblings met her and they were cool with her. So like, yeah, my siblings are different than my parents. Like even farm brother is like, I think happy to meet partners. I think it's just like different. Now, whether or not that partner could show up in front of the kids, we don't know. We've never had that happen. We'll see when my gay brother has a partner, like how that goes. And we'll see like, who knows? Well, who knows what the future has, right? My sister could end up with a girl. Like a lot of things could happen. Somebody could be trans. Like what if somebody transitions? Like we don't know. We don't know what the future holds, but we'll have to cross that when it comes to it. And family will be tested. Love will be tested, right? Like things will be tested. Values will be tested. Religion will be tested. I'm sure every day my mom's like, please, no transitions, please. Because what would they do? My parents didn't stop talking to their kids for being gay. Would they stop talking to their kids for being trans? We'll never know. Or maybe we will. Who knows? You know what I mean?